Okay, video here doing the Santa Ana, California John Wayne Airport noise abatement procedure. Real world departure curfew, do not take off except during the hours of 0700 to 2150 local, Monday through Saturday, or 0800 to 2150 Sunday unless in accordance with an approved curfew extension. Noise profile, Orange County close-in noise abatement takeoff procedure. For the purposes of this video, just to focus on this, we're going to consider all briefings and all of the jet is programmed. Everything is complete through the before start and before push checklists. We're at the hold short line for runway 20 right in Orange County. And we'll dive right into this procedure here. Captain flies the takeoff and departure. This is the only airport in Southwest policy where the captain flies the departure, takeoff and departure. First officer, this job then is to set the cutback thrust manually with auto throttle engaged. Thrust hold must be enunciated. So you'd be looking right here in the FMA where it would say thrust hold. The problem with that, and I do believe this is a PMDG problem, is with the auto throttles armed. I've done a little bit of testing with this so far today. With throttle or thrust hold here, you cannot actually make any adjustments to the throttle with your HOTUS. They're simply locked out. So I think the best way to do this is to just go ahead and take off without the auto throttles armed and then re-engage them in the air at 3,000 feet. And with any luck, we'll make this work today. Second line, which is I think what we'll do here, this next line, auto throttle may be utilized for setting takeoff thrust and restoring climb thrust at 3,000 foot airport elevation. So we'll just do the restoring climb thrust portion of that. Flaps remain in the takeoff setting until reaching 3,000 feet above airport elevation. So our minimum cleanup altitude is in reality 3,056 instead of the typical 1,000 or 1,056 if this was any other normal airport. If VNAV is used for takeoff, ATC or airspace limitation may require the use of speed intervention at or above 3,000 feet. We will do the VNAV LNAV takeoff here. FMC is programmed, the routing is in here. Note, for an engine failure or TCAS, RA use thrust as required and discontinue the close-in noise abatement procedure. And if we did have an engine failure, we would do exactly that. We would disregard the reduced thrust settings, the cutback procedure, and at 1,000 feet airport elevation, like any other airport, we would fly our engine failure departure or engine failure procedure, which will more than likely in this case is just going to be straight out runway heading on a 196 off a 20 right. In the real world, we do make a PA regarding a noise abatement procedure. For example, ladies and gentlemen, due to the noise abatement requirement here in Orange County, shortly after takeoff, we will reduce power to lessen the noise impact from our engines on the surrounding neighborhoods. This is a normal procedure for this airport. Just don't want to alarm the people when we bring the thrust back like that. Most people probably think that there's an issue with the aircraft, so we just want to sort of give them an advanced warning that this is completely normal. Flying procedures are in addition to normal pre-flight takeoff procedures. Pre-flight, use flaps 5 or flaps 10 if directed for a 700, flaps 15 for 800 or max 8. Select both on the N1 set knob. So this is the first time you probably use this knob here. You're going to go from auto, and in auto it's reading from the FMC what our takeoff thrust setting is of 89.3. If we go to both, we can roll this knob down to what our cutback thrust setting is going to be. It's going to be around 77 something, so we'll get it down there just as a place to start. It's unfortunate how slow this changes here. So we're going to manually set the N1 reference box to cutback N1 power setting. Note the cutback target pitch attitude. We've got a chart for this we'll review. Verify and set the thrust reduction all engine acceleration altitude on the takeoff ref page 2. Go to takeoff ref and page 2. You'll see without a cutback, we don't actually have this here. What we would typically do is just use the 3,000 feet here for acceleration height. Still using engine out, acceleration height of 1,000. For the purposes of the PMDG, you can go ahead and use this. Your reduction here, your cutback at 800 feet. Your restore climb thrust at 3,000 feet AGL. If you're going to use a thrust climb reduction, that's shown here, and in fact on the N1 page you can see I've got it selected for climb 2, thrust reduction for the climb. Back to that page. The game is already predicted at 15 degrees centigrade. I need a 76.1 thrust setting for cutback. So we'll go ahead and set that, and we'll see what we get off our actual chart. 76.1 there. So again, we got 3,056 here. We've got 3,000 here. Captain will arm VNAV and LNAV. That's complete. Use all available runway. Increase power to a minimum of 40% N1 prior to brake release. Select toga. Follow flight trigger guides to maintain V2 plus 20. The first officer will perform all ATC radio transmissions, including setting cutback thrust. At 400 feet above airport elevation, verify/select LNAV. At 600 feet, the FO will position one end on the thrust levers and call approaching cutback. At 800 feet, immediately reduce thrust N1 reference to the reference bugs the cutback thrust. We'll pull the power back to match these green carrots. And it's real simple. If you just use that little white fella there and just match that up, you can find pretty quickly and easily while the engines spool. At 3,000 feet airport elevation, above airport elevation, our command cleanup altitude. The captain will, with VNAV engaged, call for flap retraction on schedule, verify/set climb thrust. If the VNAV is not engaged, he will call set speed, verify climb set thrust, call for flap retraction on schedule, establish normal climb speed using VNAV or indicator speed/Mach speed. First officer with VNAV engaged will retract flaps on command, verify/set climb thrust. Set the N1 knob to auto as workload permits. So we'll bring this back to auto as part of our cleanup procedure. Auto brake off, landing gear handle off, reconfigure packs and bleeds if necessary, and you can bring the N1 bug set back to auto here. So I got a chart, 737, 700, runway 20 right, flaps 5, outside air temperature of 15 is what we've got here, standard day, with a weight of just under 125. So according to this chart, at 15 degrees, 125,000 pounds, it's 76.7. The game came up with 76.1, so awfully close. I think you can use what the game gives you with some confidence that it's accurate. Simply, of course, accurate enough for the purposes of what we're doing here. Also, one thing to note: the chart gives me a pitch attitude for cutback, before cutback, and after cutback. A before cutback pitch attitude of 20.2 degrees, after cutback of 13.2. That's something you just want to jot down, maybe make a note of on your release so that you know at cutback reduce the pitch to 13.2 degrees. So we'll see what we can do here. Before takeoff checklist, fuel is verified. We've got our takeoff fuel from our release. And before takeoff, departure plan is not required. Attendant notification complete. Electrical generators on. Anti-ice is off. Packs are auto. Bleeds. Engines on. APU off. Start switches left. Continuous. APU off. Flaps. CDU 5. Indicates 5 with a green light. Start levers idle. And recall checked. Before takeoff checklist complete. Get a clearance from the tower, cleared for takeoff. Bring the lights up. And we're going to do just like we had said. We're going to use maximum available runway. We'll get it out into position on the center line. Hold the brakes, run it up to 40% N1. And then we would normally just, hit that toga button, let the auto throttles take over. And it would work just fine in real life. Unfortunately, with the game, you cannot move those thrust levers with your HOTUS, even with thrust hold enunciated on the FMA. So we're going to try to do this manually here. Hold the brakes. 40%. And takeoff thrust, let's take a quick look. 89.3. We'll hit toga. Set takeoff thrust 89.3. 89.3 set. 80 knots. V1, rotate. Right up to 20 degrees, positive rate, landing gear up. LNAV is verified. 600 feet approaching cutback. Right back down to 13 degrees nose up. Just what we took off of our chart there. Make sure that power's set in there, match those green carrots. And follow the LNAV guidance. And get her trimmed up. And bring it on the autopilot. And we can focus a little bit more on what's going on here. So we're climbing out through for this 3056. That green carrot will come down for our minimum cleanup altitude. We've got our power pretty close to nailed there. I was a little bit low. That's okay. We're just a little quieter. And you can see that pitch attitude is literally right about 13 degrees nose up. Here comes our green arrow for our minimum cleanup altitude to 3056 or 3000 above airport elevation. So we'll go ahead and arm the auto throttles at this point. Let the jet power up. We'll go set speed. Flaps 1, climb thrust. And we're looking here at an N1 of a climb thrust of 94.1. We'll get rid of the reduction. Should be 91.6. Here it comes. Through the one bug, flaps up. Climbing on course, climbing via to 8,000 feet. 91.6, that's our target there. Clean jet, clean up. And part of that cleanup is to bring this N1 set back to auto. You can see it now matches our climb power of 92.2. We'll go ahead and close our speed window, let it accelerate. And we are off and running.